Hello, MGTOW. Hello, man. This is Howard Dare. Thanks for stopping by. So, I want to talk about the difference between pleasure and happiness because this is a very important subject. If we, or rather culture, media, can hijack your pleasure system and get you to conflate your pleasure with your happiness, they essentially have you in an addictive state to their products. And I've been dealing with a lot of damaged people for these last 4 or 5 years. And it's very frustrating for me, Howard Dare, because anything that happens, I'm inclined to analyze the situation, give a general overview of the situation, talk about how to resolve the situation, and then usually ask for some help in solving, the problem that I've outlined. That's what I do. So, the critical part of it is the analysis, is the upfront work, the research, the study, the familiarity with the topic and the subject. So this is no joke, right? So this is what Howard Dare does. And other people, think that they're doing the same thing. And they're not at all. And I've had a real hard time trying to figure out, what's going on here. And I think I finally figured it out. And what I'm dealing with are people whose pleasure reward system has been hijacked. And it occurs to me that this is happening to almost all of us. In other words, everything is an addiction, okay? A shopaholic, a rageaholic, a talkaholic, everything gets the oholic suffix afterwards. What happened? Now, if you'll think about it, you'll recognize that there's a fundamental difference between pleasure and happiness. Pleasure is something you feel when you're doing something, having something that excites your dopamine system. And the message to your body is, this is exciting and I want more. That's pleasure. This feels great and I want more. Problem is, of course, that as you consume more, it has less of an effect. It doesn't elicit that same pleasure response because, of course, you're building up a tolerance. Your dopamine system is getting overworked. The receptors are getting overworked, okay? I'm sure most of you have experienced the idea of a hangover. Well, not the idea, but the actual hangover, right? So here's this pursuit of pleasure that doesn't really end. You know what I mean? I've always been fascinated by people who consume so much of something that they become sick. And this is a fundamental thing that's going on. Your pleasure reward system has been hijacked. So what we're talking about here is the difference between pleasure and happiness. Ask yourself, when do you feel happy? Okay? Consider this also. If you ask people, what do they want in life? Most people will vaguely tell you that they want to be happy, right? And yet, if you look at them, you can see, like they're out of shape, they're overweight, they don't have enough money, they're not feeling good today. So they're not going to be happy, right? What they're going to do instead is they're going to seek out pleasure. They're going to think that if they consume something, if they have something, if they are an apex consumer, right, that they're going to be happy, that they're going to get social validation from their culture, and that they're going to feel good. And initially, it works, right? But over time, it doesn't because it leads to gluttony. It's pleasure seeking. Now, contrast that with what happiness is, okay? Imagine you're a farmer and you've planted all of your seed, you've tilled your soil, you've cleaned the soil, you've fertilized the soil, you've planted everything, you've got everything irrigated, and it was a big job, right? That's happiness. That's you looking out over your work and saying, I'm set, for the next season. I'm just going to have to do maintenance at this stage. That's happiness. That's contentment. That's security in the future. Okay? Pleasure and happiness are two different things. Our consumer society, our culture, our media has tricked the people into believing that their pleasure is their happiness. So we're just going around people and they're just trying to feel good. Or for that matter, since the resistance gets built up, they're just trying to not feel bad, okay? And I want you to understand this vicious cycle that they're trapped in, that the dopamine pleasure system, it's real easy to hijack that reward system. And I'm suggesting to you that this has been done on every single level within our society, okay? Even your social interactions are mediated. It's a transaction of the man exchanging resources, okay, for the company of the woman, and there's his validation and his pleasure, okay? Of course, you understand the fundamental principle to get people to do what you want. You just find out what it is that they want and you withhold it from them, okay? And then you just give it to them in so much as they give you what you want, okay? So what the people want is they just don't want to feel bad anymore, right? They've consumed all their soda. They've consumed all their fast food. They've consumed their addictive substances. They've engaged in their social behavior, and it's still not enough. It's not happiness. It's a vicious cycle of seeking pleasure, and your ability to feel the pleasure becomes less and less with every indulgence of the pleasure that you engage in. Okay? It is addiction. It is a short-sighted man who's only looking to the next hour, to the next day. I tell the story of, in the movie, Western Times, a rancher comes onto a train and he sits down next to a gunfighter, and he can tell that the man's a gunfighter. And he says to him, you want to know how to get a horse to do whatever you want it to do? He says, just feed it enough to get it by to the next day. And that's it, okay? You want to know how to get a man to do what you want him to do? Just give him enough. Let him earn just enough to get him by to the next day, all right? So we have foregone happiness, contentment, structure, stability, security. We have thrown all those things out the window for pleasure, for high social status, for having a lot of money and being able to get a lot of things. Shopaholic, okay? As you get, you want the things, you get the things, but they don't give you the pleasure that you thought they were going to give you, so you need more stuff, okay? What a beautiful system, right? Could you think of a better system for a marketer to have put in place? So this is what I'm talking about. This is what I want you to think about. This is what I want you to focus on a little bit. And I want you to put aside a little bit of your pleasure, okay, in favor of more of your happiness. And we can go deeper into this because what we're talking about is the difference between dopamine and serotonin. So we have become dopamine addicts. And this is how we're running the economy. We knew this. At the end of World War II, they came to the president, to Eisenhower, and they said, look, there's a great danger of us just falling right back into the Great Depression. What are we going to do? And the answer was, we're going to create a consumer society. People are going to have indoor air conditioning. They're going to have refrigerators. They're going to have washer and dryers. They're going to have TV dinners. They're going to have TVs. They're going to have radios. We created this on purpose. Now, I am not suggesting that there has been some horrible conspiracy to hijack the pleasure system of the population, but there never had to be. There didn't have to be. For us to do that, all they had to do was want to sell more, is to do effective marketing, okay? So put a little bit of your pleasure aside. Focus a little bit more on your happiness, your contentment, your security, your future, your own self-worth, what you're not getting from the outside world. because what the outside world is engaged in is pleasure seeking. And it'll even happen in a tiny little conversation. So if you say to somebody, George Washington was the first president of the United States, and they had suggested that Thomas Jefferson was the first president of the United States, they're going to have that argument. Not because it's a valid argument, not because they've studied the facts, but simply because they don't want to feel like they're wrong. So you're not even able to interact with people on, a level of objective reality. What you're dealing with is their emotional state, their response to everything that's going on. And, that's what I'm dealing with. So I'm sitting here trying to help people, trying to talk to people, trying to analyze the situation, trying to understand it myself. And what I'm getting back is jealousy, envy, resentment, a bad attitude. And I couldn't understand it. What's driving this? Like, why don't these people want to do a good job and solve a problem? They can't. All they want to do is not feel bad. See, the idea of feeling good, that's been gone for ages. That's been gone for years. All they want now is to not feel bad. So you understand how the marketing aspect of this really has them addicted, okay? Get out of that. Don't let that happen to yourself. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that for now. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, donate, especially donate. You're my only support here, okay, to put out content are my subscribers, my listeners. Without your support, I can't do much. With your support, we can change the world. So go ahead and click on my CashApp donation link in the description below. Do whatever you can. I would appreciate it. But most importantly, stop looking after your momentary pleasure and start looking after your long-term happiness. And let me know how that works out. So please join me again, Howard Dare, as I plan and hope to have more content for you. Thank you, MGTOW.